get party people, it's Steve, and he's back with Kevin again. You know, we just had so much fun talking about The Simpsons last time. We thought we'd come back and do it again. Although, maybe when we get around to doing a third episode, we'll make it be about something else. What do you say, Kevin?
That sounds good, but I had lots of fun the last time. But you know what's better than talking about just episodes?
What's that, Kevin?
A movie!
What? Yeah, usually this is Steve and Andre town, but we both seen this. A lot of people have seen this. This isn't going to be our usual, oh no, here's a piece of garbage that you've never heard of. How did we get here, guys? Oh no. Man, I wish I was watching Jurassic Park. No. So, yeah, we're not going to be doing the usual blow by blow that we're wont to do here. Because, one, it's a comedy. Come on. How much... We're not going to be too critical on different things. And we're really going to just come back and say... Have a look and say, is this still doing all right in 2023? A movie that came out in 2007? Fuck, Kevin, I'm old.
Boy, are you ever.
You're not that much younger than me, buddy.
When this came out, I wouldn't have legally been even able to drink in the United States.
Yeah, I was still a hair young for that too. By just 8 months. I was like 8 months short of...
You're really killing my point here.
Yeah, I am.
That's not what I was looking for.
I'll start with a little bit of before the movie came out, because for me, the hype was real for this, because rumors persisted for years. I think by this point, we all kind of knew that from DVD commentary or whatever, that Camp Krusty was supposed to be a movie at some point before they shelved it. Did you ever see that episode?
I've seen the episode, but I didn't know that was supposed to be a movie.
I think they tried it as such, but until it got away from them. This would always crop up every few years, especially when things like Beavis and Butthead would get a movie and South Park would get one with actual theatrical runs. And then Simpsons would still just be waiting, and they never did, until finally you started seeing the teasers, including my favorite, where they throw you off with the 3D-looking movie, and Don LaFontaine, rest in peace, with his gravelly voice, is like, one movie dares to be ugly this summer will dare to be ugly. And on Bo just pops up, The Simpsons and 2D.
That's marketing.
It is. And the rest of the marketing, when we got closer to the movie, wasn't fucking around either. Burger King had the priority on the kids' meals toys, and I think they had like a grown-up... They had some kind of special Whopper you can get for a while. There's a famous story with the toys I'll get to a bit later. But 7-Eleven was the big one here. A lot of big areas, spots got entire rebrands into Quickie Marts, but I'd say almost all of most 7-Eleven stores got trucks and trucks of Simpsons merch and other goodies, including pink donuts, which they still sell, and Buzz Cola, which I remember tasting an awful lot like RC, if memory serves.
Did you keep any like promo items from 7-Eleven from this time?
I've got Slurpee cups somewhere, but my Buzz Colas leaked long ago.
Yes.
And my one open can was infested long ago, even though I washed it out.
Did the Slurpees say squishy on them?
They all said squishy on them, yeah.
Nice. That's awesome.
You couldn't not know this movie was coming out, and I'm typing all this down, and it's suddenly occurring to me that maybe my co-host doesn't remember this stuff. Maybe it's because he's so much younger than I am. Maybe it's because he's Canadian. I don't know. What do you think, Mister?
I think it's probably all of the above. I am admittedly pretty fuzzy on the lead up to this. Now, definitely, it was still a big deal. I remember it was important that The Simpsons was coming out with the movie just because of how culturally important The Simpsons was all throughout the 90s and early 2000s. But I also don't think we had the marketing push up here. We do have 7-Elevens, but I don't think there was any like major rebranding of 7-Eleven for the time.
Well, to be fair, we've been over on a show a while ago that 7-Eleven, even though you're not that far away from us, doesn't always see eye to eye. You had those Link's Awakening cups, and that you pretty much had to send to us. We didn't get those, so
Mm-hmm. But you guys are getting Pac-Man now.
You guys don't have
it. All washes out. I'm sure we don't. I haven't seen anything for it.
It's so weird, but since I never gave up on The Simpsons, even when it's not so good, I'll always say, what else am I going to do on 8 o'clock on a Sunday? Me and some friends that I was going to college with, we were all hyped as fuck for this thing. I bought midnight tickets in advance at Lowe's. Now for you kids at home, Lowe's is the theater chain that became AMC when they bought them out a few years after the fact. That's the theater chain that everyone bought the stocks for just a few years ago.
I was one of the confused kids because in Canada, Lowe's is a building supply store.
LOWES is also a building supply store here, but LOEW''S was the movie theater.
Okay.
That may be why they rebranded after getting bought out.
I'm glad we cleared that up because that was deeply confusing.
And I had to buy these tickets the old-fashioned way. It's 2007, so since this theater was by my job at Sears, and Sears, for you kids at home, was a department store that a few years ago also mostly shut down. They used to sell. They were Amazon in a store before the internet came along. Anyway, enough of that. I had to go buy the tickets in person for Simpsons at midnight. Have my friends pay me back, and boy howdy, did we go to this thing, and it was packed with fans. We were tempted to put butter on milk duds. We saw guys that vaguely resembled nerds from the college episode, probably by accident, but I don't know. Maybe they were all dressed up like that on purpose. Who could say? It was like 11:58, and we were all about ready to bounce up and down in our seats. Stop the madness. Start the movie. We were ready for this thing. This was a room of our people, and we had the best time in 2007, and I went back a few weeks later, and I still liked it. I think that was one of the only movies I paid for twice.
So obviously you were excited for this, but I think you're the biggest Simpsons fan I know. Was this like fairly profound that they were coming out with a movie to you, or was it just I love The Simpsons, so obviously let's do it?
It's both. It's a little bit of both of those things, but also a bit more of the social aspect. I used to have friends, Kevin. I wasn't always the friendless wonder I keep calling myself on this podcast that sits on here going, man, it sure wish to be nice to do these co-op things with my friend. No, I used to, talk to other people at a more regular basis at the time. And I only talked to like one or two of these kinds of people. We get older and we lose more of our hair, and we just don't have the kind of time we did when we were younger. Youth is fleeting.
Well, what are Andre and I, chopped liver?
No, but not at all, Kevin. But you also, don't live nearby.
No, we certainly don't live nearby.
I mean, you're our neighbor to the north, but
couch co-op probably isn't happening.
No, not this weekend. So did you youngsters go see this, or did you not have movie theaters in Canada in 2007?
I did make a point to go see this, and that, I guess that maybe that in itself speaks to how culturally important it was that they were coming out with a movie. Because to be honest, by this time I was fairly out on The Simpsons. I still I would probably at this time be more likely to go watch old syndicated episodes than I would be to watch it on Sunday. I definitely by this time wasn't keeping up with new episodes, and I think even looking back, I don't know at the time that I had recognized as much as I can in retrospect that I felt like the quality was dropping off. Maybe I just, in my head, I was getting a little bit older. Either way, I definitely wasn't as into The Simpsons, but just the fact that they were coming out with a movie was a big enough deal to go see it fairly early after it came out.
I feel like that was the case for a lot of people, because when I saw it the second time, it was with a few coworkers who had been out on The Simpsons for quite a while, and they were like, you know what, fuck it, we'll go see it, and they ended up liking it. Okay, I think I'm not going to call them and ask now in 2023. I don't even have their numbers anymore.
Well, I think overall, I feel like the reception at the time from like kind of the general audience was, fairly positive. And I think looking back on it, it kind of reflects, it is similar to, I guess, where the humor and the format of the show was going at the time. But they did also put some effort into, having those heartfelt moments that we kind of talked about on the top 5 episode. So I think that probably helped with the broad appeal rather than just having it be a large episode that was reflective of what the show was like at the time.
Oh, yeah, I'd say so, because, even though you are doing a movie based off a TV show, you do need something to occupy that movie time with. People are buying tickets, and we got 90 minutes, so we got to pad that shit out. It's either going to be a musical, or we got to make people feel sorry for stuff. And musicals are fucking expensive, Kevin. So, Kevin, it's been a while since either of us have seen this, I think. What were some of your impressions looking at this?
Generally, I like this movie. I liked it at the time, and I still like it upon rewatch now. Like I mentioned, it does kind of, you can tell where the show was at the time by watching it, and they had shifted more heavily into Homer-focused episodes, and this movie really embodies that. I think if I had one overall critique of this movie, that it was a little bit of a lost opportunity to really have it centered around each of the Simpsons. Now each of the family members does kind of have their own subplot here, and they have their own time in the spotlight, but Homer is definitely central to this movie. And I think it would have been just a little bit more organic with it being the Simpsons movie to have a little bit more focus on all of the characters. I feel like Bart really got kind of cheated here. His main plot throughout this movie was, I wish Flanders was my dad, and we'd already explored his resentment towards Homer in a number of the episodes up to that point already. So I think just maybe as far as critiques, the underutilization of the family was my big issue.
I mean, we need to get to Alaska somehow, right? And and I guess they really can't help but fall back onto old tricks like Homer's an idiot, Bart's embarrassed by his family. Oh why won't anyone understand Lisa? But there's a cute boy over there. Marge doesn't seem to understand what's going on, but we gotta do all that too. And then the big dome shows up. So the other big critique with that is that when everyone felt smart at the time, it's 3 episodes stapled together. Tell the people.
Which is what it should be. I don't think anybody, it would have been a little bit awkward to go in here and if they were trying to do Schindler's List.
Oh my God! Could you imagine if we came in and it was Simpsons List? I don't know. I don't know how we would have all done in 2007, because this is 2007. They actually kept the plot under wraps pretty good at the time. If we came in and we came out after watching 3 hours of animated Schindler's List, I don't know. I would be a profoundly different person today.
Yeah, it would have been a little bit much. And I don't want to, I guess, by critiquing this, I don't want it to come off like I don't appreciate the movie. There was some really good, like quick visual gags that I feel like were just quality wise, not necessarily better, but fairly quality considering the show. They opened up with the Itchy and Scratchy movie, and then when, you know, they break the fourth wall with the Simpsons at the theater. I thought that was a good way to open. I really liked when they were cleaning up the lake and Lenny is getting out and his pants just melt off from the toxic lake. And maybe as far as like quick visual gags, my favorite on this movie was when all of a sudden everybody's panicking and everybody in the bar runs into the church and everybody in the church runs into the bar.
It's a great gag for sure, but I'm going to put on my moviegoer hat for a second and be the weirdo that says seeing the Itchy and Scratchy short at the beginning was an awful lot like being our parents and going to a movie and seeing a cartoon before the movie started. You know, back when you could go to the theater for a nickel and we got 5 cartoons, 3 newsreels, a sody pop, a full garbage bag full of popcorn, and still had enough to ride the trolley on the way home. And if you were really looking around to pinch your pennies, you can bend over and pick up another penny and get a whole box of saltwater taffy on the ride home.
How far back are we going? It seems like you might be exaggerating a little bit.
I don't know. I listened to my dad talk about how cheap things used to be, and it's like, come on, Dad. What are you talking about? I'll listen to him talk about how Broadway shows standing room only would be like $3. I'm like, okay, do you know how much these tickets cost now? I'd have to like give up entire paychecks just to not see the show, just to say I was in the same just to say I was in the same building as the show. But this isn't the inflation podcast. Although it is weird how they how different stakes inflate quickly when our bad guy Al Brooks, my favorite from the You Only Move Twice episode, shows up in the form of Russ Cargill, the head of IPA, which they do oddly foreshadow at the beginning when they're in church. I just find it weird because there's production notes that say he was supposed to be Hank Scorpio at first, but they retooled him into this, and I'm like, why didn't you guys just go all the way and make him Hank Scorpio?
Do you think that would have been better to do it that way?
I don't know, because he's already doing this, but with a script.
Was it? I wonder, would it just have come off as needing to be reliant on like on one episode?
I don't know. I think you could have did it on anything. You already had Rainier Wolfcastle playing President Schwarzenegger, so it's like I feel like that's a big leap to do too. Although it was funny. I was elected to lead, not to read. I don't know. I just find the whole thing with him to be very fascinating because in addition to changing the character, they changed his whole design at the 11th hour. The DVD still has all his scenes with an older design where he's a much more diminutive sort, and they play all his scenes and a whole lot more, and he's just this short guy making all these obscene demands. And then, like I mentioned on the top, this is where they fucked up the Burger King toy, because that was the design they sent to him, and then they changed it at the last second. And this isn't the first time this has happened. We've seen this happen before, where we got to make things happen in order to make the Happy Meals work with Sonic 3 before, and it just happened this year too with the Mario movie, where the toys came out in November because the movie was supposed to come out in November, and different things got spoiled, quote unquote. Oh no, there's a Luma in the movie. Oh no, that's gonna ruin everything forever. I'm like, I don't know. It's fine. Like, I just find those scenes with him to be an interesting break when in between all the other scenes where they find the need to escape to Alaska, and they build the whole will they, won't they? I need you to trust me on this one, and all that other nonsense with the dirt bike and the cage, and when they're trying to skip out on the train. I'm the mascot of an evil corporation. Oh. That's not going to bite you in the ass when a certain company buys you out 15, 20 years later. Is it Fox?
So with Cargill, what was the reason for changing the character at the 11th hour?
I don't know. Maybe they thought someone was going to get mad in the little people community. No idea. You never know.
I want to ask you specifically about your thoughts on Spider Pig, because that whole kind of part of this movie is what I probably found the most off-putting. I don't like hate the idea overall, and I do think it was, you know, relatively funny with, you know, Homer holding the pig upside down and singing the song. But it seemed to like that even on the cover of the DVD, right? It's got the pig on there, if I recall correctly. Like, it seemed like they really latched on to that, and to me, you know, kind of that part of the plot was you know, going back to the, you know, making Homer specifically stupid. It was really embodied that. You know, maybe I'm treating it a little bit unfairly by focusing too much on that, but I was curious if you thought that the Spider Pig aspect was a little bit over sensationalized in the historical context of the movie.
I don't think you're off. I'd say it's one of the more dated aspects of the movie for sure. You got to remember, around this time, Spider-Man was doing tremendous numbers at this time. Tobey Maguire, we had very low standards in the early 2000s. Okay, fine, Spider-Man 2 was good, but I did have to watch it again and again at Sears in the kids department. I can probably do it with sock puppets at this stage. I don't want to be Spider-Man anymore. I'm Dr. Octopus, and you must be Spider-Man. But anyway, there was, and they probably told him, look, you need a mascot, and you're not allowed to use the baby or the dog, and that's probably where the pig came in. And the advertising worked because it didn't give away too much about the movie, and we all hummed it at work and in classes, and I don't know, I remembered it all summer long and in the months ensuing. But at the same time, yeah, Kevin, it's probably good that Plopper the pig, yes, they actually did name the pig Plopper. It is not called Spider Pig. It's very easy to forget because, yes, it was that prevalent. It's good that Plopper only appears about one or two more times after this and wasn't just a recurring character that, you know, was just a part of their lives after this.
To their credit, I watched this about a week ago, and then the day after I was cleaning up the yard and continuously singing Spider Pig to myself. So I guess it did work as a hook.
I mean, he does whatever a Spider Pig does.
What about Green Day in there? Because that was another one, and obviously it's dated at this time. But you know, the show was no stranger to having musical guests. But it was like entirely inconsequential to having Green Day on there. That just seemed like another kind of a weird choice, not offensive, but
you know, again, you're the more musical guy than me. But I'm remembering my college days where American Green Day was enjoying like year 17 of being in the middle of, it felt like year 17 of their American Idiot success. And yeah, when you're making a movie, you get the popular music that you could afford. And, you know, yes, in the Simpsons case, you do hire them on personally to do the movie. And, you know, yeah, it's very, because there's a residual lead time in cartoons, something they would lampshade later on in the series. By the time this would come out, it wouldn't be as relevant as it was when it probably was in production, but it was still funny to have them do the opening and then have them slide into the barge and have them do the funeral, which is still doing the movie, and having poor Mrs. Glick play an American Idiot organ version. And I mean, yes, it's dated, but movies are made when they're made, right? And if you're going to make it take place in the present day, it might as well have things that were in the present day in them. Although I will say are you going to fight me on the Tom Hanks cameo? Because if you're going to fight me on the Tom Hanks cameo, I'm booking the next flight.
No, that one's fine. Tom Hanks is timeless.
Okay, you will be safe for now.
Okay.
Something I've always found weird just about the story is that they drop the big dome over that city. Because, you know, Homer drives the pig shit silo into the lake, and they trace it back to him because he spray paints "This is my silo" or whatever it is on him that traces it back immediately to him. Take my family. Take me, but leave my family. That's fine. We only want you. But anyway, it's so easy to write off the dome as, oh yeah, they'll have this resolved by the end, and they do. But do you remember how Under the Dome came out like 2 years after this?
I do, yeah.
I'm like, I'm sitting there watching the coming attraction for it on CBS or whatever. I'm like, The Simpsons movie just did this. I'm like, you mean they borrowed it from the book? Like the book, I'm sitting here doing like intense Wikipedia research on my laptop because still 2009 or whatever, and like okay, so you're telling me that the Simpsons group had like this very dumb idea about a dome and it's dumb. They play up how dumb it is because Lisa gets out via a sinkhole, and you got poor Stephen King. Well, not really poor Stephen King because he's a bazillionaire, and he made her. And let's be real, he probably had someone ghostwrite the book for him.
Whoa, some Stephen King shade.
Oh come on, he doesn't need my approval. If he does, invite me up to Maine for some lobster, right? How's that sound, buddy?
Lobster and a fine time debate.
I don't know. I know us Stevens are supposed to look up for each other, but he spells his wrong, so I don't know. I know they try to write off his as aliens, but I just found it weird that they beat him to it by 2 years, and I don't remember anyone actually liking Under the Dome. Did anyone actually like Under the Dome? I seem to remember just people watching it just to see. Oh God, we gotta see how this dumpster fire ends.
Now was Under the? I'm sure. Did the book Under the Dome come out after this movie, or was it just the show that came out after?
I think that okay, I made sure to do research. The book came out in 2009, and the show came out a few years after that.
Oh, okay. There was maybe a secret of Stephen King lawsuit from The Simpsons after then, because it's definitely pretty on the nose, similar.
Well, after the shinning, I think everyone's allowed to borrow from whoever. But I'm like,
that's fair.
But I just found it weird, like. Really, you're of all the things to borrow from The Simpsons, you're going to take the dome? I just found it weird that more than Plopper, there's all those other elements that never come up ever again. Like Lisa's crush. They play it up like that's a big deal, but he never comes up anymore. Mm. Not even in an episode where it turns out he's a jerk. Because I would have ripped off that Band-Aid in the next season if I were them. Mm-hmm. And Dr. Nick is crushed by debris. He is dead, but he just comes back in the next season or two, and he's fine.
Was there ever a reference in the show about that, or anybody even just an offhand comment? Hey, I thought you were dead.
No, which is weird because I don't know how many you've seen, but there's enough characters that have died off over the years that, like Maud Flanders famously got killed off, and. Dr. Marvin Monroe, he's the fat psychiatrist who appeared early on. They just silently killed him off and then brought him back later. They even that they do reference. They're like, "Hey, I thought you were dead." Oh no, I was very, very sick. like that they bring up, but here, no, Dr. Nick is very dead, but no, he's still hi everybody later. So I don't know. It's just weird now. So I guess the other question to just ask is, do you feel like this even works now?
I think, and I kind of talked about this earlier at the time, as far as my appreciation of the show. I don't know if maybe I couldn't really see the forest for the trees. I didn't notice that the quality was dropping off as much as I later felt like it did. Maybe I thought I was just getting older, like I said. But then going back and rewatching it now, I think I'm maybe a little bit more unfair to it because of that context, because I'm thinking now, I can recognize that The Simpsons in 2007 is not what I wanted it to be anymore. I think it's still entertaining, but I think it is fairly indicative as to what the show was at the time. Also, I guess on that same note of whether it works now, I really need to talk about the Bart penis scene, because my jaw fucking hit the floor when that happened in the theater, and I'm still surprised that they got away with it. I don't know if there was a precedent for that in any movie. I mean, this is kid penis, but it's also a cartoon. I don't know if this should be considered considered distasteful. It's definitely funny from a shock value time. And to be honest, again, watching it, as a growing up, I knew it was coming, and I still found it hilarious, especially with the context that they were going to such great lengths to cover it up before that. But I don't even have a frame of reference as to like whether this is considered acceptable in 2023.
I'm going to take a big risk here. The big risk of having everyone say hashtag monotone is canceled and say, you know what, it is. Because this was a very carefully crafted scene, for one thing. And that's pretty much the only reason I would say that it works. Like for those reasons you said, and more importantly, it's not sexualized at all. Bart's only doing that for a dare. Like, it's a routine dare like he would do on any other day. But this time it's a movie and it's rated PG-13 and we got an animation budget, and let's show off like 3 seconds of Bart penis.
And then they were careful to make it not like...
They don't zoom in on it.
It wasn't...
It's not anatomically correct.
Anatomically correct, yes. I did. It was when I did rewatch this, I watched it with the kids and my daughter, who is 6. We got an audible, oh my gosh, when the penis came out. She was not expecting it, so...
And they do go back to covering it again with the French fry at the end. So
it's fine.
I was doing some research, and there's a bunch of European countries that said, no, this is PG. He's not naked for that long. It's fine.
I wonder, do you know, did any markets make them get rid of that scene?
I don't know. If I was a smarter podcast, I would have did this research.
Yeah, I wonder if like maybe in Japan it's not. It was.
Oh no, I don't think
it was pixelated.
Japan might have made them pixelate, maybe.
So what about you? Do you think this kind of holds up and works in modern day?
Look, I like I insinuated earlier. Everyone that was a smart person in 2007 was correct. The ones that had the newspaper column to fill. Oh, look at me. I'm a film critic. The Simpsons movie is 3 episodes stapled together. Give me a Pulitzer. Blah, blah, blah. It's not going to be movie of the year. I'm like, okay, you know what? I don't think that means that as the guy that usually picks on movies on a podcast necessarily has to do the same here, because this isn't Lawrence of Arabia or Schindler's List. It's the Simpsons movie. It's not boring. The jokes still mostly hold up. Although it was weird that Homer is in a bar in Alaska playing Happy Feet Vice. That's like kind of weird too. I'm like taking pot shots in studio, but I wasn't bored. I mean that's been the critique me and Andre usually have with these movies. Were we bored to death? No. Mm-hmm. Did we have fun? Did I still have fun? Yeah. I mean, it doesn't have all the magic it had when I was sitting with my buddies 15 years ago, but 15 plus years ago, more rather. But I think this holds up fine.
Mm-hmm. I think too, from that aspect of whether it was just more of the show. I think the story overall was definitely more grandiose than what they would have even done on a like multi-episode arc, right?
Oh, absolutely. Because a few years before, not even, like a year or two before this, when Family Guy came back and they were really trying to capitalize on those DVD markets, especially at FYE, they had the Stewie Griffin undercover story. And they were trying to make that into a movie. And it was obviously not a movie. It would that if anything was 3 episodes stapled together, it was that, and it was so obviously 3 episodes stapled together that when the writer's strike from that year, from 2007, happened, they needed a few more episodes to pad out the season. They unstapled those episodes and made the season finale. That's how literally just 3 episodes that was.
Yeah, and I definitely don't think you could have done that with this movie. You couldn't have retrofitted it into being multiple episodes of the show.
I mean, even Family Futurama had a series of the 4 movies that became a season in between old Futurama and the one they put on Comedy Central, and there's little edits that they split those up into their own episodes a little better, but Even those I'd say were more made for DVD movies better than that was. But this is still more a movie. I don't think you could necessarily hack this into pieces and say, "Yep, this is just in between the seasons." Just slap that on FX with extra commercials.
Yeah. You know what else I think really set the movie apart from the show is the animation. And I think they did a really good job. There's kind of that pseudo 3D thing going on, right? And I think not only was that used to great effect, but they properly showed enough restraint to not overdo it, because I think it would have been very easy to overdo the animation and have it feel out of place. But they also, they did it in such a way that it felt special.
It's the trend that comes in overall with making the animated version of your favorite TV show. You do the TV show, but a little better. You use more color. You add in more shadow. Like the big joke amongst us Bob's Burgers fans was, it's a little darker. It's a movie now. And all they really did was just add more shading when there really wasn't before. In places here and there, like you do the music a little better. The 3D, pseudo 3D, yes, they do use that to great effect, especially on the wrecking ball. I love when he's on the wrecking ball and they're literally slamming in between the rock and a bar called The Hard Place.
Right. I really like the scene too where the angry mob is marching towards the Simpsons house, and there's that like great aerial zoom in right into swing through the mob. Was really cool.
Just it's real classy stuff. You gotta. I think they really wanted to really exercise their chops a little bit, spread their wings, which is a good time to bring up how the movie actually did. When I don't know how many of our movie shows you've listened to, Kevin. This is a good chance to either suck up.
Most of them.
Yeah, you've listened to a few. That's good. That's great. You might have a future with us yet, Kevin. We
well, like that's sweet.
We like to talk about box office numbers, and guys, this made $536 million off of a $75 million budget. So we usually like to point out how you need to make about three times the amount of your budget to actually profit off of a movie. So I don't know. I'm not so great at math, but I think they profited off this movie, right, Kevin? I'd say the Simpsons movie made some fucking money.
I would say it's definitely over 3 times the budget.
I think it might be the most profitable movie we've talked about on this show so far. And I think people in-house started to notice, because the summer release date when this takes place is about in between season 18 and 19. And this is about where we start seeing what we would call jerk-ass Homer wind down just a hair. This plots would still center around Homer, but how Kevin points out very accurately, Homer did get very stupid up to this point, to the point where they needed to throw a dome over this town. And I think they might have saw that and saw him like, I think we can, even without big movie budget money, we could still tap into that heartfelt stuff and artsy stuff on occasion. And we did start seeing some more of the heartfelt plots show up again. And it did feel a bit defanged for a while. I can't lie, especially when they started doing experimental-ish episodes with their HD toy in the middle of starting in the middle of season 20. Yeah, season 20, when you'd have the not necessarily in that season, but like other ones where not just in Halloween, but you'd have entire episodes built around specific other parody IP things, like the Lego episode or the Game of Thrones medievally episode, where they'd have a lot more bigger art spaces to play in. And, other people would, gradually die off here. But I would honestly feel like they would feel their way to the new Simpsons renaissance we've been feeling, especially these past 2 seasons. I think new Simpsons, in the way we might say new Super Mario Brothers, is about as good as it could be without, being as great as the old ones. It can't be. They know they can't do it. So they're doing this. They built themselves up to this new identity with the old IP. And I feel like that's pretty good. There's a lot of the weird tie-ins and a lot of the retreads where you're sitting there and you're going, didn't they do this episode before, but with different characters? And I seem to remember it being funnier before, but eventually do get there, and I feel like it starts here when a lot of people realize they could, and lots of other somebody else's would not stop asking for a sequel to the movie.
Do you think that the movie is the reason for that, to the degree where you would say the tone changed enough right at the point of the movie that you would draw a hard line between tonal differences on either side of that? Or was it just kind of the movie happened to hit around the time of a gradual tone change?
I think the movie was the start of the tone change. Like I said at the when we were talking about Green Day, there's always about almost a year lead time when you're making a cartoon. I'd say it's as you're watching season 19. I would say you're starting to gradually see where writers are, getting word of news of how well the movie's doing and how it might be a good idea to start changing certain things, and that would be where to start pivoting the idea different ideas.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
It's actually lampshaded a few years later when they do the Up parody for Itchy and Scratchy, and Krusty comes out and says, "Look, I know Up is a year old already, but it takes a long time to make a cartoon." At least that's what I think, because I'm an old man and I don't think so good anymore. Where's my cane and my cod liver oil?
Yeah, that's interesting. That makes me want to go back and watch a few episodes kind of on either side, maybe from kind of 17, 18, and then, into the early 20s and see how much of a contrast there is.
I mean, that's just me. I mean, I'd ask you what you think, but you're a while ago, you're picking on me for, oh, well, you know what, is Serious Flanders not that good? Fuck you, Steve.
I didn't know. I feel like my sentiment is radically taken out of context here. I'm being unfairly put on trial.
Is it though?
I mean, that episode in specific definitely has to be an outlier. It's not like I haven't seen any of the new episodes, because the kids are watching them on TV sporadically, and they don't listen to my harsh directions where I say, season 13 or earlier, that's it, you guys. They don't give a shit. So, I definitely through osmosis catch some of the newer stuff, and the Serious Flanders episode was definitely an outlier as far as tone.
So what you're telling me is that you saw the Minecraft episode the Roblox episode by accident.
That I haven't seen. I've seen, because Matthew loves Lego. I've seen the Lego episode, probably not from start to finish, but in some form of it, probably 10 times, because that's quite often on repeat around here.
I think that might have been around the Lego movie too. There was a time where they were trying to make us adults obsessed with Lego. I mean, it worked with me. I liked Lego City Undercover on Wii U. Shame on everyone else for not buying it.
So do you think we're going to see another Simpsons movie now that Disney has got this in their grasp?
Man, I know they're enjoying a lucrative time on Disney Plus now. I don't know if you've been seeing the little shorts they've been popping up on.
The Star Wars themed ones, and
every year they come up with a new short for them now to do on their plus anniversaries, where we're enjoying great community synergy with the Bluey community. You kids into Bluey, or are they too old for that?
Oh, yeah, we get Bluey on sometimes for sure, which admittedly is not bad.
Oh, my niece is in the Bluey age space, and it is charming as fuck. Mm-hmm. the cross contamination is fascinating. Mm-hmm. I'll send you over some of what they found later. But do I think they'll? Man, you would think that just for even if they don't put it out in theaters, you'd think they'd slap something on Disney Plus and call it a movie. But I just don't know if they would want to, necessarily, ruin that pie necessarily so fast. Maybe they just want to dole out the series some more, or try and gauge more interest in other projects, because Bob's Burgers movie came out last year and didn't do so hot. I went opening night, but Top Gun came out that weekend, and all those boomers, man, they really wanted to see old Tom Cruise and Val Kilmer, and Spoiler, that I was told they did not make out at the end of the movie, so I don't even know why you would even go.
Shame.
I mean, you knew they were building up to that for almost 40 years with the volleyball scene in the first one and all. I mean, everyone go watch Bob's Burgers. Cameron, what do you think? Are we getting another Simpsons movie ever?
Well, no, because, again, I default to you as the expert, and now that you say that, maybe I'm second guessing it. But if I would have been asked first, I would have said I'm surprised they haven't done it already. I mean, if Disney's already funding that, it doesn't seem like it would be that much of a stretch for them to do exactly what you said, right? Whether, even if it's not in theaters, just put together a robust hour-and-a-half episode with a little extra pizzazz and market it as a movie and say, hey, Disney Plus exclusive. But yeah, maybe I don't know. Maybe that would be a little bit short-sighted. I don't have as good of a insight into the financial side of animation as you do by any stretch.
I feel like that's something they do like towards the very end, like when they finally do stop running the show, which is something I do feel like we're close to. Which I'm sad to say. I feel like we're close to the end of The Simpsons, which is something I'm very sad to say. Like, but I don't know.
You don't think? I just would have assumed now that Disney's got that in their wheelhouse. I mean, it's still a fairly big boon to have every episode of the Simpsons available on a streaming service. I mean,
no, it absolutely is great to have every single episode. I'm just wondering how much longer does this show have? What do you think, Kevin?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess it's hard for me now that it is on Disney Plus to even gauge how much of because it definitely got some renewed interest when it hit Disney Plus. What portion of that is people that are like me and want to go back and watch the older episodes over and over, and how much interest maybe there's a lot of situations just like mine where the parents have nostalgia for the original seasons and then their kids are around and the kids get interested in it and then the kids are interested in watching the new episodes. So, I don't know, maybe just by virtue alone of being on Disney Plus, it'll kind of give it a new lease on life.
I think I remember reading something a while ago where the main impetus for putting Simpsons on Disney Plus and putting all of them on Disney Plus when no one else would was because Disney Plus needed a bingeable show. I mean, I don't blame them. I mean, I've been using them instead of the DVDs ever since it came out, and I've been hanging on to my sub ever since. But I mean, guys, we also got Muppets and Dinosaurs now. Aren't you guys watching those? Why not? Come on. Yeah, so just as asking about Matt Groening for a sequel will get us kicked out, I think we're kicking our own selves out too. Have a good night, kids.